Prime Minister Van Horten warned us about the increasing naval presence in Vagsland in the Archaean Sea. He showed us his wishes for having a strong naval cooperation with Sordland in the future. Okay. And we got a mega project and tensions in Bergia. Well, let's see. What can we do? What can we possibly do? It costs 2. I have no money. I have no cash. Ministry of Economy has put forward 4 bold plans for investment. Please do not try to spam my chat. 4 real investments are Benfi International Airport, Seaport. It costs $2. Oh my god. I like the agricultural zone. I like the port. But I also am in debt. What was that about having 14 free dollars? So that's, you know what? That's a great point. Invest in the port. Spend the money. The economy's in danger. I mean, like, it looks bad. You know? Like, Ignore it, okay? It says danger because we're having so much fun, right? Danger. Fun times ahead. Nia Morgana and Lias Groff scheduled a meeting to discuss the ongoing legal case that required my attention. Early in the morning, we convened in my office. Thank you for being here at this hour, Mr. President. We need to inform you about some news from Bergia. By the way, can I just say, I don't know if you've gotten a single event so far that has given us money. We've only gotten events that have spent money. Am I crazy? I feel like we haven't got any event that actually gives us anything. There's a court case initiated by a blooded citizen, which involves a possible revision of the Constitution. Unfortunately, it has potential to affect the whole country. That's going to take time to pay off. That bullshit, I would say. I invested in GameStop. Next day, it went up 500%. So if we just invest in Sword Coin, then we can become. What if we go to, like, you know, what if we go to Arcacia? We go to Las Vegas or Las Arcacia, whatever you want to call it. We bet it all on black, and then we can double or nothing. It's an idea. It's an idea that we can think about. Okay. Okay. I'm listening. I'll start with the beginning. As you know, after the discovery of KA-74s and separatist hideouts, there's been more than a few attacks initiated and claimed by the BFF. Due to the lack of security funding, some of these, otherwise avoidable, attacks couldn't be stopped. This led to some increased attention in Bergia. Lias side. The main problem is with the security structure of Bergia. Due to the special status of the region, operations on the ground are run by local security forces and are not bound to the interior, which means that my hands are tied. And unfortunately, the court's backlog is piling up with increasingly frequently rulings that are unjust. This has led to many of our citizens losing their trust in our justice system. This is particularly a problem for the residents of Bergia. It is definitely not helping with the increased tension between the Bluish citizens and Bluish population and swords. It has increased even further after Operation Braid Trap. We received some more and more intelligence about some kind of preparation by the terrorists. We can't allow the conflicts of Wayland to spread into Sordland. And we know that Wayland and Sordland's division of the BFF are in close cooperation. Precisely why I didn't make a deal with Wayland. It's the right decision. While it didn't seem to have stopped the tensions from increasing, their wars against the BFF have bolstered the resolve inside the country. The increasing threat of the BFF led Governor Braun to, justifiably, resort to his emergency powers to curb the danger. His discovery of militant training grounds disguised as schools is commendable, as well as his quick handling of bomb threats coming from major cities like Deer. However, his latest policies have been questionable, especially the peaceful resettlement order. It has met with a massive anger from the majority of the Bluish in the region. That's a massive understatement. Governor Braun has abused his powers, and is clearly acting against the Constitution. And quite surprisingly, Ishmael Ersin has managed to successfully push his case to the higher courts. He is suing Felix Braun for infringing upon the liberties of the Bluish people. He also raises a conflict in the Constitution, and he argues that the way it is written makes it open to interpretation, and allows people like Governor Braun to abuse their powers. Okay, well, I mean, I think we already know all these things. Okay, what exactly is his claim about the conflict? As you know, the rights and liberties Article 7 alludes to are described in Article 100 in further detail. All citizens, in theory, excuse me, can exercise their rights described in these articles and are equally subject to the law as prescribed. And these rights cannot be suspended by the government in any other circumstances other than a defense of war. Mr. Anderson claims that every sword is equal before the law, and Article 7 does not include other ethnicities, and thus gives the state the right to suspend or limit the rights of non-swords defined in Article 100. The courts have repeatedly protected Governor Braun in the past, and it is true that he bets on Mr. Hawker justifying his actions through Article 7. However, there's also Article 6, which the courts could have taken into account already. And what's the problem with Article 6? As you know, Article 6 says, everyone who's bound by the sword of state is a citizen, or by citizenship, is a sword. Which clarifies clearly that the Constitution does not discriminate against other ethnicities or cultures. Citizens of this country are called swords. But did you ask British people what they think? Yes, it's true the article has protected them on a number of occasions, as it defines sword as a non-ethnic term, but has left up to interpretation of the courts. They could have argued that Article 6 extends the rights as defined in Article 7 to all citizens of Sordland, regardless of race. But they didn't, yet. They have potentially pushed this case to Supreme Court. Go to the accusations against the governor. Mr. Braun has sadly evicted thousands of Bloods from their homes in Deer recently. The fact that this is happening in a city with relatively low BF activity is a sloppy decision at best. A sloppy decision? This is a direct violation of their rights to property. The BFF activity levels have nothing to do with this. But it does, Ms. Morgana. The state can take any measures to fight terror within, inside its borders. The decision would have to be justified in those neighborhoods, and were in fact labeled as a threat level red. But they were not. Hence, he did not have the authority to evict those citizens. In this case in Deer, the governor has officially violated his authority. You're underplaying it. This eviction was only the last of many orders that he. I gotta read this again. You are underplaying it. This eviction was only the last of many that he had ordered as part of Bergia's peaceful resettlement policies. It's not about Deer. There are hundreds of accusations listed by the in this case, ranging from violent action by law enforcement to open discrimination in local municipalities. Calm down, Nia Deer. I'm not disagreeing with you. Okay, who is Ishvel? Ishvel Erson is a lawyer and a British rights activist. He lives in Deer and experiences systemic racism in the region firsthand. He was evicted last month from his home in Deer on the grounds of threatening public stability and safety. He was also shot at by local law enforcement officials several times in the past 2 years. His men survived it all so far. The attackers, of course, were never punished. As much as the eviction seems unjust, Mr. Erson must be further investigated for potential ties to the dangerous organizations. I like to believe the forces wouldn't have fired at him without proper reason. Okay. Are you joking? You like to believe? Okay. What the British community is going through in Bergia is unacceptable. We must do what it takes to stop this madness. That we must. Okay, what is the case about? Isfel Ersin is claiming that the current constitution gives the legal grounds to discriminate against British people, directly infringing upon their rights as citizens. He claims that Article 7 of the Constitution, citing the line, every sword is equal under the before the law, is in direct conflict with the freedom and rights defined in Article 100. Governor Felix Braun has accused of using Article 7 to justify his oppression of the British community. He has stacked the papers in front of her. In any case, the situation might be troubling if it reaches the Supreme Court. Mr. Hawker manages to sabotage it by altering the current interpretation. It would be disastrous for British rights. I will be doing my best to ensure the positive result comes out of this case, but I am not sure if the centrists would be willing to agree with Mr. Erson. Why would Mr. Hawker even sabotage it? The current interpretation is strictly solist. I'm sure he would follow the Constitution and change Governor Braun for unconstitutional behavior. According to the foundational values of this republic, everyone who's a citizen of this country is a sword. The Constitution is clear about this, and it does not allow for discrimination. Maybe Hawker is not the man that you think he is, Mrs. Gruff. From what I've heard, his stance on the subject may not be the standard solist interpretation, but something darker. I'm afraid he'll reject the case altogether and find Governor Braun innocent. If this happens, it would make discrimination against British people illegal. Okay. I mean, it is insane. Is there anything that I can do? I'm afraid not, Mr. President. The executive has no jurisdiction over the judiciary. In this case, I'm afraid even Justice Edmonds and the centrists might be almost impossible to convince. To be honest, I don't think this matter for our administration. We must keep out of judicial affairs. And much I hate to say it, someone agree with Elias on this. I prefer that we keep our status quo over risking a complete abolishment of rights. We still have the power to make tangible reforms. Okay. Is there a fourth option here? Yes. Convince the justice to agree. Put pressure on the system. I mean, what if we could convince them, right? Like, what if? What if we could convince the justices to agree with Urson? Wouldn't that give us precedent to change said articles of the Constitution? I mean, if the Supreme Court agrees that the Constitution is in conflict with itself, yes. But I don't know if you're serious or not about that, Mr. President. I'm afraid that even Justice Edmonds and the centrists would be completely against that. It'd be a very difficult scenario. As I said, I think the government has better things to do than meddle in judicial affairs. There is, however, something that the government can do to address the situation on the ground. It is time to push for change within the security structure of Bergia, a special status that resulted in de facto autonomy. It clearly isn't working. I believe we are aligned on this matter, Mr. President. Mr. President, you asked me to explore options regarding the eradication of special zone at the beginning of our term. Given the current circumstances, I think it's now possible. That's great to hear. Tell me the details. Resettlement policy of Bergia and the Erson case have changed the mood of the lawmakers. We can use this opportunity to push for the removal of Tarkin's Sole Security Zone Decree, which is a much bigger possibility than before. Of course, racism is rampant throughout our country, but Bloodish citizens inside Bergia are having a much worse time than Bloodish residents in cities like Lockhaven or Hurlsword. If we focus on Bergia, we can remove its special status. This alone would be a huge step for Bloodish rights. Unfortunately, as long as Governor Broad is in charge of Bergia with the powers that he has, no judicial reforms would reverse the situation on the ground. To put it simply, we must work on a detailed proposal to restructure Bergia. I believe we must become a region of Sordland like any other. We must centralize the system and abolish the local security force. Okay. Are you sure that we can even revoke the special status of Bergia? I can't be sure of anything, Mr. President. You know this better than me. But Elias and I both believe that there's potential to get more MPs behind the idea. It is true. Some members of my circle inside the party are keen on this as well. They are starting to believe Sol's policy in Bergia has already run its course. Well, Mr. President, with a strong enough proposal and some judicial support, the current powers might just be enough to be able to enact this by decree by as well. In any case, I think it's also possible to get this through the Assembly. If we play our cards right during the process of this case, while we work on the preparation for a strong proposal for the special zone, we can gather enough support behind it. We have to try. Okay, tell me about the proposal. Nee and I both agree that we need to abolish the special zone of Bergia. This is the first point of the proposal that we will address. This would also mean taking away the special authority of the governor. And I agree with the removal of the governor as well, with his insane authority. But I don't support the complete centralization of the system. I propose that we restructure the special zone, democratize it, and acknowledge the Bloodish movement. How does that resolve anything? How do you solve any problems by dividing the region for the rest of Sordland? We've tried that already. I agree with Elias. Placing a special zone with another one wouldn't help anybody. My proposal is very simple. The special zone must be fully revoked, the governor's power must be taken away, and local security forces must be abolished. Only then can Bergia be an equal part of Sordland. I propose that we unite Bergia with the rest of Sordland and enforce the same laws and policies as any other Sordlish region, dismantling the current semi-independent security structure in the process. We will hold local municipal elections just like any other city, and the security of the region will be under the full control of the Ministry of Interior. We will no longer allow their forces to pursue violence with impunity. If this was a problem that the central government could fix, your mighty colonel would have solved it already. The assimilation policies clearly didn't work. What does that have to do with anything? I'm just saying the solution is not a rush unification. We must accept that Bergia is a unique region with its own culture and history. We cannot disregard its social reality. You know what? I would also like to hear Mrs. Morgana's proposal. Thank you, Mr. President. Millions of British people suffered over the last decades. We saw massive uprising, terror attacks, and the governor going rogue. These people only want to live here in a country of equals, but they were denied that. Why don't we allow Bergians to hold their own local government? Why is Hollisor so keen on prying into the lives of British people? We should replace the oppressive laws of the special zone with a democratic system that allows for proper local representation. I propose the Bergia semi-autonomous region. I'm sorry to tell you, Miss Morgana, but Bergia is part of Sordland, as much as Angsland or Hollisord. You're bringing a secessionist Fettin Egel's lifelong quest here as your proposal? What's wrong with you? What's next? The secession of Bergia and the formation of an independent British state? The autonomy of Angsland? Why don't you hold a referendum for the rooms in Estord? And ask them if they want to join Rumberg while you're at it. Okay. Latest of the point. Bergia shouldn't have any restrictions or privileges compared to any other region. Leah smiled. So it's decided then. I can start working on a proposal as soon as possible? Yes. Miss Graf, you get to work immediately. I'm counting on you. Of course, Mr. President, right away. This is a mistake. Please, Miss Morgana, you've heard the President. She's gloating. She is gloating about Storm. I will start working on a proposal immediately. It is very important to get this done right, so it'll take some time. My estimate is that it'll be ready sometime after your vote on your constitutional amendment. You can choose to enact it then. Perfect. Get to work immediately. Great. I'll get to work. See you later, Mr. President. They bid their farewells and left the room. Okay. So again, the economy is still bad. Is that the red line? But it could be worse. Gasm thrives. In a promising turnaround, Gasm experiencing an unprecedented boom. Thanks to successful new investments, the company is expanding operations and is hiring a substantial number of employees. This resurgence bodes well not only for Ghost's future, but also for the storage economy and the job market. Vice Secretary, Chairman Tok Elzitli, Iyotake's influence in the United Katana is growing steadily, sparking speculation and a potential leadership reshuffle in the distant future. His successful spearheading of the Iyotake plan and transformating changes it has decided are adding weight to speculations. Notably, Leon Maliev has held the reins of power since the 1920s, dominating the political landscape for nearly 4 decades. There are growing concerns that, while the upcoming chairman election in 1960 might signify a change in leadership, it might not genuinely represent the wishes of the southern Katanan republics. This anticipated control transition of power could sow the seeds for future instability and political unrest. Is Iyotake's potential set to supersede Chavatanga Puana? The global community is on tenterhooks, anticipating the potential far-reaching implications that could have for Katana and beyond for the next decade. Okay, what do we have? The National Business Council in Lock Haven has reported on balanced energy market, despite regional fluctuations. Lock Haven has maintained a stable energy prices and has a positive impact on the local economy. Wonderful, wonderful. Budget allocation on healthcare, and what are you? Oh, Reformed Act. Do you cost me money? Of course you why does everything cost money? The Central Bank Reinforcement Act, led by Edith Agnew and the GNA, intends to bolster the strength and stability of the Swedish national currency and bolster the overall economy. The Grand National Assembly advocates for the following measures. Section 1. Section 1 mandates the accumulation of foreign exchange reserves. By buying foreign currencies, especially those of Sordland's main trading partners, the central bank can exert more control over the value of our own currency. Section 2 outlines the adoption of prudent fiscal policy by reducing the national debt and limiting budget deficits. A country can present itself as a more stable economic entity, attracting foreign investments and improving our credit rating, which in turn will enable us to borrow at lower interest rates if necessary. Section 3 proposes to increase legal and informative support for industries with high export potential, such as our emerging electronic sectors in Gellisord, wine production in Boren, and pharmaceutical manufacturing in Lockhaven. By increasing exports, the demand for our currency in the international market will rise. Sign it. Money is just a number, right? Print more money. Print more money. We just need to print the 1 million Swedish Ren coin. The 1 trillion Swedish Ren coin. and it'll solve all of our economic issues, okay? In the signing of the Central Bank Reinforcement Act, President Anton Rayne has bolstered Sordland's fiscal future. The act, aimed at enhancing the stability of our national currency, underlines the importance of prudent financial practices by reducing national debt and maintaining foreign exchange. Excellent. From the desk of the Ventry City Free Trade Committee comes a warning. The signing of the Central Bank Reinforcement Act is a blow to free market principles. In the committee's view, the new law focuses on accumulating foreign exchange reserves and bolstering domestic industries may limit the flexibility and dynamism of Sordland's economy. Article paid for by the Free City Trade Committee. Look, don't worry about it, okay? -9. We're all good. We're all good. I was having afternoon tea in the State House office in Deer, going through the newspaper. It was a headline that piqued my interest. It read, Polio Crisis in Valence. Before I could start reading, I heard a couple of knocks. Pascal entered, followed by Lucien. Mr. President, it's time for your scheduled healthcare meeting. Good afternoon. Please take your seats. They have taken their seats, and Pascal produced documents from his suitcase. He put them on the table. He looked over the newspaper that I was reading. Very troubling news from Valence, Mr. President. I just returned from a meeting from our top scientists on the matter of polio. It seems to be spreading. Indeed. This might have dire consequences on the region. He nodded. What I was told by our researchers was that it was, with current infection rates, there are assuming millions of people affected by polio. So we have notified all of our healthcare staff, especially the ones close to the Valence border. Unfortunately, these are also the most rural areas where we lack equipment and staff. We need to be ready for any possibility. I doubt that it's that serious yet. Regardless, back to the topic, Mr. Benevol. Pascal put his reading glasses and went through the documents. He didn't say anything for a whole minute. Mr. Benevol? Yeah, of course. Let me start. He put the papers down, cleared his throat, and looked at me. In general, I'm very content with the budget decision that was made. This comes as no surprise, as you know I'm a man of your word. The overall mood has been positive as the healthcare focuses more on healthcare. I'm excited for what we can achieve with the allocated funds. Okay. Providing better healthcare was our goal. This administration be known to have supported the welfare services. I am personally invested to solve the horrible infant and maternal death rates along with your request. As you know, I've been preparing a new privatization program that would create funds through selling unused ministry property and some extra taxes. I know this too, Pascal, but this goes against our economic doctrine. Additionally, health is a key sector people expect to be in public hands. Aside from creating additional funds, there's also a long-term problem with privatization in a country like Sordland. What are those problems? People are already lacking proper healthcare, even though it's free. Why must you privatize? Prices increase as the state hospitals close due to sales. We'll prevent the worst-case scenarios. There needs to be healthy structural improvements in the sector. This is not Acacia nor Lesbia. You're talking about Sordland, in which healthcare is free for now. We have people who have their lives depending on the services that is free to them. Messing with that structure will definitely hurt us politically in the future. That I know for sure, but the choice is yours, Mr. President. If it doesn't cost us anything, we'll keep it in state control. Don't allow any private involvement that could endanger core health services. As you wish, healthcare services shall remain in public hands. Good choice. Now, let us get to a big question of how we will spend the extra funds dedicated to the Ministry of Health. I urge you to consider these proposals. We could build new hospitals where necessary, divert funds to increase the salaries of their healthcare workers, or invest in enhancing the existing treatment facilities in rural areas. Each of these options present a unique path towards improving healthcare access and quality in Sordland. You know what? The rural areas in the country are dog shit. Okay, the sad reality is that our rural clinics are woefully outdated, ill-equipped, and understaffed. The stark disparity between urban and rural healthcare is a major contributor to the high maternal mortality rates and prevalence of other diseases in our rural communities. By addressing this issue is one of my key objectives this term, and I believe an overhaul of the rural healthcare infrastructure is a critical step in that direction. We are seeing an uptick in minor outbreaks in specific regions. It's largely due to outdated facilities that lack proper hygiene standards and equipment. You know what? Proceed with the decision. I don't even need to hear the other bits. In my book, The Unfortunate Man, I depicted the hardship of a poor mining family, a vivid illustration of the stark healthcare inequalities in our society. As Minister of Health, I strive to rectify these disparities. Therefore, I believe improving treatment in rural areas should be our course of action, Mr. President. It would be best to consider the political advantages of each one, as well as the practical advantages before making a decision. A few minutes went by in contemplation as a moment was made, the decision to come near. I think we improve rural healthcare. I think it makes sense. New contracts for improvements will be drawn up immediately. Well, that wraps up discussion for now. Very well. Fruitful meeting nonetheless. Nice and short. Thank you for the meeting. Pascal gathered his documents and left along with Lucien. Okay, so what we're going to do... what's our next event? About the upcoming vote. We're going to read our final piece. Hey, look at that. That's in the green, baby. That's in the green. What if I just put my $2 of personal wealth into the government budget? How does that help our situation? Okay, thousands protest the new governor of Hageland. Thousands in Hageland, in Hagelport, took to the streets to protest the Agnolian government's increasing control over Hageland's administration following the appointment of a new governor. Demonstrators protested the Agnolian government's decision to appoint the governor from the Agnolian mainland without holding any local elections on the island. Vaxlandian leader, Chancellor Hegel, has quickly condemned the decision. Majority of the residents of the island still claim Valak heritage or have Vaxlandian ancestry. Experts say that increasing tensions between Agnolian and Vaxland promoted the Agnolian authorities to make the decision with an aim to increase their control over the islands. I'm not gonna lie, I'm personally annoyed that personal wealth doesn't regularly go up. We're basically just like not paid. Earlier, the guy tries to bribe you with 6 months of your salary, which is +1 wealth. You're getting +2 a year. You know, you might be right there. We could probably use that to, like, I don't know, buy a new car. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Chief of the Armed Forces, Velikan Kruger, reports that the Vezek Armed Forces are moving north towards the town of Vernon. On their way, many Bloodish villages were assaulted, and initial reports indicate a high death toll. There are many approaching closer to the border. Veznek army movements will be observed closely. Many displaced refugees from the battle have been seen moving towards the Sordish border. So, I mean, we do have you. Can I click on this? President Smolak of Ireland has declared the launch of an Operation Bear Trap against a separatist militant group known as the Bloodish Freedom Front. The Vagenet government accuses the group for causing unrest and violence in Ireland and holds them accountable for terror attacks against political and civilian targets. The operation is aimed at neutralizing the Bloodish Freedom Front's activities in the region, particularly focusing on the Bloodish population in the northern of Ireland. While the president has stated the operation will be conducted with the utmost care and for civilian safety, and all necessary measures will be taken to prevent harm to innocent people, the international community is concerned about the excessive use of force by the Veznek armed forces. Combined with President Smolak's track record against the Bloodish community and the quickly introduced temporary ban on international media, the international community is watching the development with worry and urges the Veznek government to show restraint and be transparent about the operation. But I will say that at least for now, it's going to be a good time for to end this little section here. So thanks for watching.